Now, sometimes we use words without really knowing exactly what they mean. We know what context to use them in. We know when it's appropriate to say them and how to fit them into conversations and stuff. But when we're asked to define them, sometimes we're at a loss. And I think one of the key examples is this word God, because there's, so many different meanings to that word. And, lots of atheists say, if you believe in God, you're nuts. But, what does that mean? Do you mean the Christian God? And then even within Christianity, there's so many different ways to conceive of God. So I'm a little weary of dismissing God, whatever it may mean, offhand. Because I think it requires a little more in-depth understanding before we can just say that this word is meaningless. Because, atheists and scientists and rationalists think that they have somehow moved past the Christian framework of the universe when they say that, I don't have to use religion anymore to interpret my life. I'm going to, use my own mind and think rationally and empirically and stuff. And, that's fine, but that whole idea, all of science is a progression of Christianity and of the Judeo-Christian worldview. Because the basic model of the universe for the Western world, because of Christianity and Judaism, is the idea that God is this outside architect, and he designed and sculpted the universe as like a machine and set it into motion, and then he watched over it. And the story goes, the only thing in this machine that had free will was man. And this is very different from, for example, the Eastern view of God. In Hinduism, Brahman is not outside of the created universe. The created universe isn't a machine, a dead collection of parts and gears that just automatically do their thing. Brahman is intimately involved in all that. Brahman is the created universe, sort of pretending not to be, the all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipresent, omniscient God. So they're two very different views of what God is, because the Hindu view of God, of Brahman, isn't necessarily all-knowing, because Brahman doesn't really even understand what he's going to do next. He's just in this fit of creative expression, moving to higher, more diversified and complicated stages of development almost spontaneously. So there's no plan. The Judeo-Christian God is a planner, and his universe is organized and rational and mechanical. Like if we look at Descartes, we can see he's really the best expression of this. The idea that the outside physical world is a machine with rational, orderly, stable laws that we can study empirically with science. But his inside world is immaterial. His soul is this spiritual thing that isn't in the physical world and isn't part of the machine. It just understands the machine from the outside. So you can see that's the foundation of science. And it's so it rests so heavily on the whole Christian biblical mythology, and nowadays we think we've transcended that, and that we've somehow risen above that whole mythology, but we haven't. Our whole understanding of the world is still based on the same metaphor, that the world is a machine. And for a Westerner to try to think that it's not that way, the only opposite, or the only other explanation for what the world is that it's chaos. That's the two extremes that we go to. Either it's a rational, orderly machine, a mechanism, or it's just totally chaotic and has no guiding laws or anything like that. And so we're forced to choose between one or the other. And that's a very tense situation. Now, for the for Hindus or for just Eastern spirituality in general, these aren't the two choices. It's not chaos or perfect order. It's all play instead, or at least for the Hindus, it's all about playing, acting, pretending to be this lonely, lost individual when really you're Brahman, just expressing itself. And Brahman as Brahman, without any separations or veils to apparently separate himself from himself or herself from herself. Brahman doesn't have a sex. Without any of that, Brahman would be bored. I mean, what's God gonna do all by himself or herself? And then there's the Chinese way of thinking about this too, or the Buddhist way, which is instead of thinking of the universe as a play, the universe is more of an organism, and it's growing, and it's all whole, and each part is intricately connected to every other part, and you can't do anything over here that doesn't affect this part over here, because it's the blood circulation is flowing through everything, and it's all one larger body. And it's only the Western world that has this notion of the universe as a machine, and that runs through our whole culture, and it started with Christianity, and we haven't gotten rid of it. So to think that we're so much more intelligent and rational now because we've somehow gotten rid of religion is, I think, naive. We still understand everything in terms of these basic myths that have been around since the dawn of time. And I think the Western world could learn a lot from the East, because their view of this universe isn't as dualistic as ours. I mean, they don't have to choose between meaningless chaos and orderly authoritarian law. There's some wiggle room for them, and we need to learn that, I think. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to bring all that out. So tell me what you think.